Hey guys, it is late. Um, I wasn't going to do anything. I still owe you guys the truth on the Virginia State Superintendents, the VSBA. But I'm drained. Um, I wanted to give you guys a little backstory, in case you don't know what exactly I was doing prior to COVID. In case prior to COVID, I'm gonna turn my head off so I can hear myself. I was fighting this dirty state, Child Protective Services, child sex trafficking, and I guess that's the reason that I have no fear in this fight. Because you want to talk about something scary? Try fighting the corruption in the state of Virginia when it comes to our children that are being sex trafficked. So, do I get bitter on days that I'm fighting for children that have parents that love them? Absolutely. Do I get really enraged at the people hypersexualizing children and turning them into transgender and then the removal of parental rights because they then become targets for now we have social workers in our schools? These senators that are voting for this stuff, these teachers that believe this is good for children, when they're removed from their parents, is Crazy Pants Guzman going to take all of these children that have been removed from their parents into her home? No. They're going to go into a severely, disgustingly frightening, broken system. And Virginia is one of them. Virginia is one of what I call the Dirty 13. And just real quick, the Dirty 13, okay, you can't march into DC and say, I want to talk to the head of CPS or DFS or whatever you want to call it. It is literally a free-for-all throughout this. There is no head of CPS. CPS is funded by the federal government and may have a tiny bit of oversight. Virginia is one of what I call the Dirty 13 because it is federally funded with zero state oversight, which means it's literally a free-for-all. And then you have like the good states, which would be, let's see, let me pull up. I pulled up all of my my notes from, I dug them up. If, like I said, if anything ever happens to me, somebody get in my house and get my phone and get my notes because there's so much stuff in here. So I want to show you, I'll just read it to you guys. So there's 3 types with CPS. Okay. First of all, there's no building to go march into DC. There's nobody to say, I'd like to speak to the whoever's the head of CPS. Okay. You just can't stop CPS. It is federally funded. Most are state administered, which means that child welfare, they're all full. Okay, so the preface is federally funded. And this is where Clinton comes in yet again with the Safe Family Adoption Act. Doesn't it sound wonderful? Yes, it does. And it was right around the time, this is the crazy thing, that what else happened? The reauthorization, the re-signing of Elementary and Secondary Education Act. You know, right around 94, 95, the Clintons just signed all this stuff. And so Virginia is one of the states that is a free-for-all. So here's the challenge, is that everybody that wants to hypersexualize children, Guzman, who wants to take parental rights away for not affirming that, who takes these children when parental rights are removed? Is your school board? Is your school board that wants to sexualize your child and then take away your rights going to take that child? No, they're going to go into the system. And Virginia is disgusting. So you have just a background. You have state administered. They are run by the state government. The agency has control of the finances, the program execution. Child welfare workers are hired by the government, report to state officials, etc. That is the majority of states. Alaska, Arizona, Connecticut, Delaware, DC, Florida, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like I need to sing that song. Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Washington, Wyoming. Skip the V. Then you have state supervised, county administered. This is where county administered, this is a state supervised, county administered system. Administrative control is decentralized. There are county administrators. They submit a plan to the state. So these would be the top states for CPS. So you have this big chunk. It's like 30 states that I just reamed off up there that are like in the middle. They have some agency of control within the state. And then you have the ones that actually have county administrators that report to the state. They have like some sort of like paperwork that is centralized. And then you have, let's see. Okay, so I'm so sorry. So that would be Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia. These are states that the system is funded by the state. The counties have more influence on the spending, and they have centralized everything. So we go back up to what I just read. So I got flipped around. So then you have state supervised, county administrated. And that would be California. Go figure. Colorado, Georgia. These are these are the worst in the nation. Maryland, Minnesota, Nevada, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin. They're the worst. So your state supervised, county administrative systems include what I just read off. And then you have state administrative with strong county structure and discretion, which would be Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Vermont, and West Virginia. Oh God, there's so much information here. So I want you guys to understand, and I'm going to read off some statistics for you. Let's see. Actually, okay, so we organized right before COVID a protest here with one of the agencies or nonprofits that I was doing research for. That's how I became so good at this. And I'm just going to share. These were poster points for that day. Okay, this would have been back in 2019. Missing and abducted children. 8 million missing children worldwide. In the United States, 500,000 children go missing each year. Canada, 40,000, UK, 113, Russia, 45. 1 million globally each year, with a total of 8 million. 1 in 6 runaways will be lured and abducted to be sold as a sex slave. $832 billion a year industry, more than firearms and illegal drug sales, is child sex slavery. Read that again. More than firearms and illegal drug sales. $832 billion a year industry. 76% of all initial child sex trafficking interactions occur on the internet, yet everything our children do in schools is on the internet. And it's not protected. Human trafficking is the third largest source of income for organized crime. There are twice as many people enslaved today, now this would have been back in 2019, as during the African slave trade. I've said that to people and been called a racist before. It's a fact. Now that's people, not just children. There are twice as many people enslaved today as there were during the entire time of the African slave trade. Just a fact. Not saying anything. 60%. Now I did recoveries. Do you know how many? We recovered 36 girls one time. 19 of them had not been reported missing. Their foster home or foster parents were still collecting checks. 60% or 60,000 foster care children go missing each year. 60% of child sex trafficking victims recovered came from foster care. I'll get into Nancy Schaefer in a minute. Georgia was caught fostering to convicted pedophiles. This was a decade ago. LA County gave the green light for over 1,000 convicted pedophiles to become foster parents. Medical kidnapping. Do you know what that is? Of the 400,000 children in foster care, over 50% are put on psychotropic drugs once they leave the home. Why? We bring Big Pharma back into this, guys. And plus they get foster parents are paid up to $2,000 more a month if a child is deemed mentally ill. Medical kidnapping. It's real. Big Pharma is paying doctors, which is why we don't hear of doctors reporting foster care system for over-medicating. Does that sound familiar? 85% of children recovered during sex trafficking busts are from foster care. I don't know what that. Most are never reported missing. I don't know what those conflicting stats are. I'll have to look back at my notes. So the Adoption and Safe Families Act I mentioned above, set in motion by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the state, $4,500 to $10,000 per child if they are adopted out in under a year. This would be Hillary that wrote this. Under the guise of encouraging interracial or cross-racial, interracial adoption. So and that's to a non-familial family, so a non-family member. So then they incentivize $4,500 per child comes from the federal government to CPS if they adopt a child out to a non-familial family member with zero oversight. But here's what you need to know, guys. When I tell people know your state, not just what kind of state you have, you need to know everything about your state. Everybody's state is different. Virginia, just off the top of my head, is a state that they have to offer you within, I believe, 24 or 48 hours. You have to be offered the chance to find a suitable family member. And guys, here's the thing is that many people are like, that would never happen to me. If your catty neighbor wanted to, and I probably shouldn't be doing this right now because I know about 1 million people in this state that were probably like, I'm going to do that to her. But now it's on Facebook or now it's on live. So whatever. But I just can't live my life in fear. We have got to abolish this anonymous tip line because anybody and anyone can call and say that this has happened and you're in the system forever. So don't think that you're above having your kids or having CPS at your door. So here's a couple quick facts. In Virginia, if somebody comes to the door and they are from CPS, and this includes teachers, teacher home visits, do not let them in your house. Do not worry that they're going to make a note or that they're going to do this. There are social workers in our schools, and they're talking about doing home visits. When was the last time you actually had a parent-teacher conference? Why are they coming to your house? Okay. It's all coming, guys. Do not let them in your house. If CPS alone shows up at your door to take your children, they are not law enforcement officers. Do not give your children to them. Because what happened, they criminalize poverty. So everybody who's so angry about these historically marginalized children, nobody's talking about the children. They target children in poverty. Black children are targeted. They are sex trafficked and taken out of foster care more than anybody. So think about $4,500 that they give for people to take their children instead of rebuilding a family for foster care, professional foster care. Literally think of like Annie, people that just collect checks and they don't care about these kids. They don't. So important thing, if a CPS ever shows up at your door without a police officer, they are not law enforcement. What happens most of the time is people have histories, people have something in their house. Do not ever freely hand your children over to anybody. And if you have a question, call the police. Have the police come. Social workers are not law enforcement officers. Do not ever hand your children over to anybody. I know so many people that out of fear because they had their husband's pot in the house, or because they were a recovering addict, or because they had a charge 10 years ago, or maybe legitimately, I used to work with people and I said, before I work with you, I need to know point blank, what is your story 100%? Because people will say, well, they took my kids. I didn't do anything wrong. There are cases where children need to be taken, but you need to know your rights. Do not ever, one, hand your children over. Two, if you don't know the law in your state, shut the door, say, I'll be right with you, and get on the internet and figure it out. Okay? Because in Virginia, you have to be given the opportunity to find a suitable, healthy, familial person to take your children. People don't know that. I'm just going to give you guys some stats real quick. Now, again, these are my notes from 2019. All right. Oh, let's see. Trying to find some that you guys will like. I'm just going to go straight to Nancy Schaefer because you have to know about her. No, wait, first. Shadow removal and safety plans. This is the number one way that they get children away from their parents. Shadow removal. A CPS worker may offer or demand this as a means of keeping your children. That will be a safety plan. Here, sign this safety plan, which you're admitting whatever, and people out of desperation will sign the safety plan, and you're essentially signing over that you will never get your children back. Do not ever sign a safety plan, number one. Another tactic is to impose restrictions that are outside the parent's control, such as requiring that a child do well medically, even though the child has a diagnosed condition that would prevent this. In one such case, a child was diagnosed with brittle bone disease and had fractured while in foster care. The parents were asked to sign a safety plan, which required the child not to have another fracture. You can't get your kid back, but you know that it's medically impossible for you to ensure that, so you're literally signing over. That's an extreme case. Sometimes the plan is simply to have a child's grades improve, yet this is still outside the parent's control. The parents can do everything in their power to facilitate good grades, but it's ultimately up to the child to perform. All of these plans will fail and the child will end up in state custody. The fact that parents have failed the plan gives the state grounds not to offer another plan. They will move for permanency, termination, and adoption. Bottom line, if you're not guilty of abuse or neglect, don't tolerate an unwarranted government assault. Don't settle by agreeing to services you don't need. If the agency believes you are guilty of abuse or neglect, make them prove it in court. So that is safety plans, real quick. And that's so safety plans lead to shadow removal. That's really important, actually. And then I just wanted to show you guys, these are my notes on arrests. And this is like, bipartisan. Let's see. Oh, here's this high school faculty member. Let's see. This would have been back in 2020. In Rochester. Matthew Holland, 28, of Newark, was arrested and charged with a criminal complaint with the production, receipt, and possession of child pornography and online enticement of a minor. According to the complaint, on March 9th, 2020, investigators with the Loudoun County, I didn't even realize it was here, Loudoun County Sheriff's Office in Leesburg received a report that Snapchat user T. Johnson 755 had engaged in sexually explicit conversations with a 14-year-old minor, later identified as Matthew Holland. Loudoun County. Here we go. I didn't even know that was there. As an educator and photographer, the defendant not only had access to children, but occupied a position of trust with respect to them. Trust me. Don't tell your parents. Trust me. Who's your trusted? They literally use the term, who are your trusted adults? And they're not talking about you. Let's look at prosecution stats. Prosecution stats are interesting because of the victims, how you can see that the prosecution rates are extremely low. But percentage of children who are sexually abused that will become sexually abusive later in life, 30%. But really the most important thing, this was, I'm going to have to pull stats again because, and you know, the victim. I mean, we know that the majority of the time the children know what the victim or know the offender. Let's see. 93% of boys molested is by somebody they know. 80% of girls is by somebody they know. Percent of second offenses is 60%. Reconviction rate for a child molester is 20%. Reconviction rate for rapists is 19%. That's what they're caught. So you can see that average number of years sex offender serves of an 8-year sentence is 3.5 years. So again, I'll have to do a show on this. I just really wanted to come on here and talk to you guys a little bit about Child Protective Services. And then this is a page of my my notes of links. But like, this is really important, and I'm going to close out with this right here. So Nancy Schaefer was a Georgia state senator, and years ago, she started getting really loud. Let me see. I don't think I sent myself my Nancy Schaefer notes. But
my name is Nancy Schaefer, and I'm from the state of Georgia.
She was murdered.
The United States.
right before she testified, I believe, in front
Thank you for your
of
gracious invitation to join you
one of the
today.
global
And,
agencies
thanks
about
to all of
CPS.
you
She and her husband.
who have
Well,
made
it was a
this
murder-suicide.
incredible World Congress
Her
of
producer of her
Families
or her
alive in Amsterdam
book
possible.
that she was getting ready to
It's a
publish
privilege for
was
me to
found
join
dead
you
on a
on
golf
your
course
journey
3 months later.
and to
Think
be
about
with
it.
you in some pro-family policy here. I will share with you on limited power of Child Protective Services. I served in the Georgia State Senate ability, and it is a growing criminal political phenomenon spreading around the globe. Oftentimes, but not always, poor parents are targeted to lose their children because they do not have the wherewithal to hire an attorney or fight the system. Being poor and lacking proper housing does not mean your children should be removed. CPS has redefined poor to mean psychologically inferior. Therefore, it is in the best interest of the child to be removed. Best interest, of course, has also been redefined at the child's expense. It has been reported over and over that 6 times as many children die in foster care than in the general public. Once a child is legally kidnapped and placed in official safety, the child is far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation and or rape. Caseworkers.
So guys, the point I'm trying, I mean, there's so much information on Nancy Schaefer out there. And it's not the Nancy Schaefer from North Dakota. But she was, let me pull up my notes real quick. It was a murder-suicide. Like I said, her husband murdered her. And then 3 months later, the producer or the whatever of her book, and she was getting ready to testify in front of, God, I can't remember who. But you can, I mean, there's just a whistleblower found dead. That was 2 years ago. I don't know what all this stuff, crazy stuff is. I mean, there's just story after story after story. But she's not the only one. And I really don't. Oh, here's
Our next speaker is Senator Nancy Schaefer. Nancy?
Is that Charlotte Iserbyt or Phyllis Schlafly?
Yes, Nancy is a longtime Eagle Farm member and leader.
Oh.
She has had an
I didn't have any clue who Phyllis Schlafly was when I was fighting this stuff.
Which was very effective all over the state of Georgia, and another called Family Concerns Pregnancy Center. She has been in the Georgia State Senate for several terms and is a
The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire.
So yeah, there's lots of stuff.
Families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping.
Moscow, and I got it.
I'm not trying to get into all this.
Nancy? Oh, there you are. Yes, Nancy is a longtime.
They've taken it all down. I figured they would have.
She has
Yep.
had an organization called
All these links are down.
Family
But there's so much information out there, guys. Let me read you. And I actually have a lot of it stored. The question is it's still there. And then I'm gonna go because I don't even know if anybody's listening because I feel like I'm just talking to myself right now. So Nancy Schaefer, on March 26, 2010, on the eve of publishing a book on her findings, Nancy Schaefer and her husband were found shot in what was officially dubbed a murder-suicide, albeit the motive was never established. The sheriff was corrupt. And she was just an icon. I mean, you can look her up, and she was just, I mean, a force to be reckoned with. She spoke across the country. She lost her Senate seat because of it. That's a true war. That's a true hero, is somebody that fights so hard that she lost her Senate seat. And she knew she was going to lose it if she kept talking about the swamp in Georgia and the children being sold. And she did it anyway. Wow, I need to put this out there. I'm going to send this to myself. No, I can't. There is something that you should look up called The Cost of Courage, Part 3, The Murder of Nancy and Bruce Schaefer from Steam It. Now, I'm glad. This is why I save all my notes, is so that I can go back and I can find this stuff. But and it also, so that's a part 3 in the series. It'll also go into Jill Dando. If you guys don't know who Jill Dando is, and then Michael Hastings. So this all ties into how we got up to that special island that magically disappeared when COVID happened. And that whole thing. So this all ties together. But Michael Hastings is one of those ones where he was big into stuff. He was a reporter, and they have this video. His car mysteriously blew up when it hit a tree, but on the video, the car actually blew up before it hit the tree. Jill Dando is another interesting story. So that link that I just told you guys about, Nancy Schaefer, is the third part of it. Jill Dando, Michael Hastings, and Nancy Schaefer are 3 names to know. I'm not going to get into the list because I don't want to go back on it. And I make jokes about if anything ever happens to me, I didn't get doorknob disease. But I've talked to people, extremely brilliant people in this world, and there's no way that you can have like over 136 deaths, all linking back to 1 to 2 people, and not have them be related. It's just, it is statistically impossible. We will just put it that way. But so Jill Dando, still an unsolved murder. She was shot in the head in 1999. She was part of Pizzagate. And she was one of the first people. She was the host of Crime Watch, a program of the BBC. And she was investigating a pedo ring. She was an investigative journalist again. So you can look up crime. She was investigating celebrities and others who were organizing abuse. And then there's look, there's the United Nations. That's all I'm going to say. So again, that would be The Cost of Courage Part 2, the murder of BBC pedo ring investigator Jill Dando. And the last one I want to tell you guys about is Michael Hastings. My notes say in the last 5 years, around a dozen famous individuals died strangely during major U.S. government investigations. Some names that I have written down are Andrew Breitbart, Monica Peterson, John Ash, Antonin Scalia, and Michael Hastings. And they were all in the midst of major investigations into illicit activities of the U.S. government agencies and officials, with CIA and possible connection to human trafficking. In 2016 alone, at least 5 very similar outspoken critics of the U.S. government died of mysterious circumstances. Just going to say that. Look up WikiLeaks Vault 7, Year 0. So Michael Hastings was a well-known and respected journalist for Rolling Stone and BuzzFeed. His most influential works were done between 2008 and 2012. His work included notable investigative pieces on corruption and illicit activities within the government, agencies, and institutions, especially and in particularly with our Army, the left of center, and in particular, the president back in, let's just say, 2008, 2012. One of his most controversial pieces is a great book, The Operators, which disclosed dozens of hours worth of conversations between Michael Hastings and a U.S. Army general. In the book, Hastings mentions a conversation which took place between him and members of the staff before the book's release. I can't say this stuff and not get banned, but the death. So the FBI was surveilling him when he died. And the day before he died, he emailed colleagues that he was onto a big story that he needed to go off the radar and that the FBI might interview them. WikiLeaks would announce themselves just several hours before he died. Hastings contacted his lawyer, Jennifer Robinson. Things like that, guys, things like that do not make you a conspiracy theorist, okay? I wear my tinfoil tiara crown proudly. So in LA, so around 4:25 in the morning, Michael Hastings in his Mercedes hurtled at max speed, crashing into a tree. Video footage available shows the car sparking and the explosion just before it hit the tree. So that's all I'm going to say right there. And so my point of all of this, sorry, I didn't realize that Nancy Schaefer was still up there. My point of all this, guys, is that this is what I used to do. So this doesn't scare me. This is, I guess, why people don't understand why, because I know what it's like to dig into Virginia Commonwealth attorneys and find out that judges own private jails, and then have my phone hacked, and then have my life hacked, and then actually be afraid for my life. So that's how I started this journey. But guys, the point that I'm trying to bring to you is that this time that I'm spending pleading with parents to get involved with what's going on in your child's school, your child's brain, your child's education. I'm not fighting for the children that don't have anybody. And I'm not trying to guilt y'all. I'm really not. I'm just really at a point where I don't know what else to do. It is as bad as I say it is. And because you don't understand it, doesn't make it not the way it is. Because you don't like that the Republican Party is a part of the problem, doesn't make it not so. So just think about the fact that 800 million children are sex trafficked in every year in the world. You have children, you love them. Fill out an opt-out form. Protect their brains. Because 800 million children are sex slaves in this world, our world. And they don't have anybody to love them. So what have I been doing for a year, 2 years? 2 years since I bought this, because I had a year home, year and a half home. And when COVID came, guess what? They all went indoors. We were actually starting to make progress. We were actually starting to do a lot of stuff. And then COVID hit. Boom. You can't connect dots. I can. But the most important thing, guys, is that you have children that you love. These children disappear. They're the children with no voice. So the next time that you think, you know what, I just really don't want to go to that school board meeting, or I don't really want to rock the boat, or I really don't want to point out this thing this assignment that's really bothering me. So I'm just going to keep teaching this stuff, even though I don't agree with it. I want you to remember this message. I want you to remember the 800 million children in this world who are in crates, who are in trunks, because the Spotsylvania Fredericksburg corridor, right up there when you jump off at 95, between Florida all the way up to Canada, that is the halfway point, right there in Virginia. It is one of the easiest places for sex traffickers to jump on. You can literally jump on and jump off in less than 2 minutes. A child gone, back up 95. Youngkin was supposed to, and Miaras were supposed to start some kind of CPS monitoring. Have we heard anything about that? No, because I asked to be a part of it. Youngkin, Northams, and Norm Oliver, their head child jabber, Youngkin took him from the VDH and made him the head of this mysterious agency. I was pissed about it a year ago, and now I don't even know. What is his name? Somebody help me. Donna, I got bookended between it. Davila, maybe. He was Northam's head child jabber, and Youngkin made him the head of this new child protective services agency that Miaras also was supposed to have some chick, Monica or something, running it. Anybody heard anything about that? So I'm not going to get into them tonight. I just want you guys to be aware that there's social workers in our schools. Bravo to the bipartisan bill that made that available. Because how do you fix a mental health problem? You bring social workers into schools. That's a great idea. So all that data and those questions that they're asking about parents that nobody seems to care about because they won't let their kids out. Just think about the fact that there's social workers in schools. And if a teacher ever comes to your house or sends a note home that they're coming for a home visit, you can tell them, you're not coming in my house. I can come meet you at school. You're not coming in my house. And 2, if CPS ever shows up on your door and wants your children, if they don't have a police officer with them, because they are not law enforcement, do not give your children over. Shut the door and say, I need to call somebody and figure out what to do. Do not ever hand your children over. If this situation ever arises, do not ever sign a safety plan. Ever. It will never work out. You will never get your children back. And in the state of Virginia, they have to offer you the opportunity, I believe it's within 48 hours, to find a safe and healthy family member to take your children before they put them into foster care. Virginia is dirty. It is disgusting. I call it, it's part of the Dirty 13. So in closing, an hour, 45 minutes. I just had to do something. I had to talk about something different tonight, because I think a lot of people are under the impression that I'm just this angry house mom who has no base of reality of what's going on in the world or what I'm talking about. And I didn't even get into I glazed over Crazy Pants Guzman, who wants to criminalize parents. Okay, when you criminalize parents who don't affirm, because who affirms what a child thinks or wants, much less with medical care? And guess what? Our world does now, because people don't say anything. Is Guzman going to take those children into her world, into her house? Because she's criminalized parents who don't want their children to chop off their breasts or take puberty blockers? No, she's not. They're going into the system. And children in gender dysphoria are like 8 times more likely. And same thing with transgender children to be child sex trafficked. So when I speak adamantly about how wrong this is to do this to children, it comes from a base of knowledge that people do not understand. So it's 1:45. I'm going to go because I have a busy day tomorrow. But big things coming, guys. Big pieces of legislation to protect our kids. I would like to thank Delegate Freitas. Oh, that's what I have to do tomorrow. I have a conference call. And I would like to thank Senator Amanda Chase, who is doing big things that nobody else is doing to protect our kids. Not only protect our kids, protect our bodies. Because there's some bills coming in regarding madness in Dominion, Virginia Energy, if you know it, if you feel me. There is a ginormous transparency and education bill coming in, Senate and House, all standing Virginia law that nobody's abiding. It's about 8 pages long. It's going to blow your brain off to know how much law they are ignoring. We literally don't need any more law. And you can call Donna Cant and you can tell her, thank you for complicating the instructional materials, because guess what? There's already an entire section on how all instructional materials have to be adopted and brought into schools. And so by adding the sexually explicit, you just added a layer of complication. Can somebody please move over and run against Donna Cant? Please. HPV here, because Donna can't. Can we please stop acknowledging people who are red bodies in red seats but are not conservatives or aligned with conservative values? Please. Can somebody please move over to and run against Jennifer McClellan? Can somebody please move over and run against Hashmi? Carrie Coyner, gotta go. Okay. It's just, there are people that we are allowing to be in positions of power who do not need to be there, who are destroying our children, and we are not calling it for what it is, and they are running unopposed. Shame on us. Shame on all of us. If I knew, I would go, I would move over there, I would rent a basement somewhere, and I would run against them. Maybe next time. But these people continue to run unopposed. Nobody's coming to save us. It is up to us. So with that, happy Tuesday night. Happy Giving Tuesday. Thank you to all. I hated to ask for donations, but it was Giving Tuesday, and I just put a note up there. If Virginians for Children's First has helped you, or you have gotten advice, or you an opt-out form, or we have given you something of value, or, you can go to our website. I posted a link, vafcf.org, donate $5, because we don't take big money, which is how all these big groups become big, because they come with stipulations about what you can and can't talk about. And we won't do that. So we are funded by the people for the people. And that pretty much means Bobby and Ann fund it. And every once in a while we get amazing people that, you know, we have recurring donations. We have amazing people that send us money, you know, gas cards. I mean, hugs and Target. I mean, I have some of those amazing conversations. God comes into my life when I am at my bottom, when I just can't do this anymore. Somebody will approach me and be like, "You look really familiar." Oh, you're it. And then we just have them, and I don't know them. They follow, and I have done something for them, and so I do realize that there are a lot of parents who are not vocal, that we have helped, and that always lifts me up, because not everybody is going to be like me. But that's always amazing. That's always God showing up right on time. So I just wanted to tell you guys, happy Giving Tuesday. Happy almost hump day. It is almost Christmas time. And what else? Look out for some big legislation coming through. And don't forget, the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act goes into effect on midnight. So January 1st, 2023. So in about 1 month. And it is one of the most comprehensive opt-in, parents, for under the age of 13 for what data they can collect on your children. The only policer of the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act is Jason Miyares. We are 1 month out from one of the most comprehensive consumer data protection acts, much like California's, if you know anything about it. And here we are a month out and nobody has said anything. Are you asking your school division what their process and policy and procedure? Because it is a required opt-in. Opt-in. Now, when COPA changes it from under 13 to, we're hoping, under 17, the law will change. But currently is all children under 12 will have to be opted in for certain data collection, mainly that which is dispersed in the statewide longitudinal database system. So ask, where is Jason Miyares on this? Ask your school board, do you have a policy, a procedure ready to go? Because the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act, which would be all consumers of anything over 100,000 people. And so all of this education software total in the state of Virginia is being used by over 100,000. So if the conversation hasn't even been started, if they don't even know what you're talking about, you need to start the conversation. Email your school board tomorrow. Ask them what they have in place for January 1st when the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act goes into play. It protects the whole state. But if I'm going to talk about the children. Ask them, I already have. And they've talked about it. I'm going to talk about it again. Also coming up the end of December is the 6-month checkup for the ESSER COVID money. So you need to write your school board and ask them, I'm just letting you know, and this is because I get the teacher direct, Jillian Balo sends out to the superintendents and all the teachers that the 6-month check-in for the ESSER COVID money transparency is coming up on December 31st. Write your school board, remind them, tell them that transparency is literally transparency, where every single dime of the ESSER 1, 2, 3, that would be CARES, CRSSA, and the ARP money, all of the manuals can be found on vafcf.org, including there's a nice little tableau. You can go to your state, your division, ESSER 1, 2, 3, find out how much money you got. It's a nice little right there for you. Find it all, how much money you got, and ask them. I'm just making sure that you know the 6-month checkup is coming, because Chesterfield, it took them 3 months to give it to me. It's still not up on the website. And we're missing $1.3 million in IDEA money. Yeah. So just a couple checkups right there at the end. I'm rounded out at about 55 minutes. So here's your homework. Nancy Schaefer, Jill Bando, Michael Hastings. 3 big ones. Okay. 1, don't ever let anybody in your house take your kids. Don't think that you're above it, because we need to get rid of this anonymous hotline that will come in. Because once you're in the system, you can't get out. You're in. You're forever in. People are going to be checking on you forever. And love your kids when they get up in the morning. Give them big hugs and kisses because there's 800 million children. That was from 2019 in this world right now who are not loved and who are being sex trafficked. So I'm going to check out with that. So love your kids, hug on them in the morning, give them big kisses, let them go in late, sleep in late, whatever you want. And as we close out this year, can we all please put on our iron and become the iron wall between the government and our children, because it's getting exhausting over here in the La Resistance. Peace out, guys. Take care. Bye.